What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void Horror Podcast. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be talking about a Shudder exclusive, spoiler-free, called Slashback. And it's an interesting one. Let's talk about it. So, Shudder has a new exclusive that they have that's going to be on their platform probably for a little while here. I don't know how long, but if you have the Shudder streaming service, you can watch it right away because it's up now. I decided to pop this on just for a little fun. I did watch the trailer and it seemed like a little bit more geared towards kids with a sort of Inuit style storytelling because it all takes place in like the northern part of the hemisphere, and it basically is about Indigenous people taking back their land from aliens. Essentially, there's this lead girl named Maika and her ragtag friends who discover an alien invasion that's happening in their Arctic Circle, and it's up to them to save the day, utilizing all the different types of makeshift weapons and Maika's ability to hunt, plus all of their horror movie knowledge, which was not as much as they're saying in this, but there is some movie knowledge, and I'll get into that. But the aliens realize you don't mess with girls from Pang. A Pang is a short term for the full name, and I'm going to try to pronounce this as best I can, Paning Charang Non Nuvat, which is in Canada, I believe, north of here. I'm in Arizona, so we're in the desert. But yeah, it's essentially a movie by Nyla Inuksuk, who she actually did some short stories, and she also wrote she did 2 or 3 episodes, I think, of a show called Future History. Plus, she also co-created a Marvel Comics character called Snowguard, who hails from literally the same place as the kids in this movie. She helped write it. We also have Ryan Cavan, who also did the movie Sinister Witch and a few other shorts. This is Nyla's first feature film as a director, and a lot of people are saying this is like Attack the Block meets like The Thing, which very, very loosely. Nyla, the director of this movie, said that this is mainly an Inuit movie, but there's enough in it that will probably make everyone a fan in some regard, whether it's the top of their list or not. But there is a lot of culture thrown into this movie, and also a sort of a message that is kind of in there as well, which totally makes sense. So if you're not Indigenous or have lived in that culture, it may be a little foreign to you, but I think you might be able to enjoy it if you put on the right just kind of expectations, which I think you should taper your expectations on this one a little bit. There are good things in it, but there are also some things that kind of pale in comparison. There are creatures and things in this movie, this alien that is basically wearing people kind of like a husk. And it is kind of disturbing looking, and how they move and everything like that. I have to give them props. That was very, very cool. The kid actors in the movie are, they're pretty young. I'd say maybe 15 on down. Most all of them. There's very few adults in the film that even have speaking roles, let alone as much screen time as these kids get. So I'm just going to let you know right there, when it comes to kids acting, you're going to have to lower your expectations on some of the acting skill, but it's not exactly terrible or anything. It's very tolerable to watch. It's just you're going to be watching younger kids and their younger life, being teenagers, being, young kids. And that may not resonate with everybody who's older. So, which, it didn't really necessarily resonate with me, but the good thing about this movie is they do add enough alien stuff in the movie that is kind of interesting and kind of gory and bloody. But it isn't exactly a gore fest, and the CGI in it is pretty heavy. There is some practical effects in the movie. I think they did a pretty decent job with the budget that they probably had to make all of this work. Honestly, if you think about how much money they might have gotten to make this film, it's pretty damn good. It definitely leans The Thing in a lot of ways. There's even a moment in the movie where the kids outright talk about the movie without actually saying what the movie is, but they talk about the infamous blood testing scene in the movie, and you'll hear that early on. I saw a review that was like, I don't know if it's supposed to be an homage to The Thing. I mean, if they're bringing it up in the fucking dialogue, I would assume that they're probably trying to get that out of the way so you don't flaw it for that. And I think that's a reasonable way to do it, is an homage towards the film, but this is not exactly the thing. It's just a kind of similar thing that they're in the Arctic and they're also kind of dealing with aliens. So yes, but these aliens do completely different things. They don't use the kids necessarily to make a guessing game of who's who or anything like this. This is not a body snatchers movie. It is a story about taking back your land from invaders. And that's the message I think tucked in here for the indigenous people, which is, I would say, pretty apropos considering the situation with this entire continent. Even at one point in the movie when they're going to fight the aliens, one of the characters puts on a jacket that basically says no justice on stolen land. So, the message is in there. This is obviously a very cultural film that, you can still enjoy, I think, but the acting is going to be a little bit different for a lot of different people, considering you may not understand some of it, you may not resonate with it. Maybe you don't even, you're just not into kids movies or anything like that. I don't know what the rating on this movie is, but I would say that it's a pretty hard PG-13 at the very least. There is blood. There is like cutting stuff off. There is like decapitations and stuff like that. So there is gore in it. It's not exactly the most glorious stuff. And it isn't exactly, I think they can get away with it because they do a different color of the blood in this film. So that also kind of helps the rating a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I had an okay time. It does kind of slow down a lot in a lot of the parts. They do spend quite a bit of time trying to get to know these little girls who are running around trying to live their life in this world that they don't really want to live in. They don't want to be a part of the culture or Pang, or, they want to go on to greener pastures, so to speak, and spread their wings and fly like most kids do, and they end up having to fight for their land and finding out that they actually do kind of like it. That's the kind of spirit of this film, is that it's got a good message, I think, overall. Now, you may not identify with that message, but I think it hits the mark on what it's trying to do. It is just not very well acted, and it's tough saying that because we're dealing with a lot of kids here, but yeah, it is spotty. It is going to be, trouble for some people who are very particular about acting. But, I think if you can kind of get past that, you can kind of see the message in the movie here. And, there are some scenes that are pretty cool. I wasn't overly impressed with anything, though. I wasn't blown away. It didn't seem like a movie for me, but I could still appreciate some of the things that the movie does in it. It is definitely very original. I don't really see many movies about Inuits. There's not many, I've seen some crime dramas with it, but I think it was like a TV show that I watched. But as far as a horror movie, you really don't see this kind of thing. So I have to give it props for that. That's very cool. And, to keep it in that area in Pang, I thought was also very cool too, because it kind of gives you a peer into a world that we really don't get to see in a small village out in the middle of, the snow. So pretty cool though, Overall, I really wasn't overly impressed with it. I think it's kind of an interesting story to add these aliens and things into it that go around attacking, and these kids have to rise up. There's nothing super original about the story here other than its setting and, some of the tools and some of the things that they talk about in the film, but a different culture, which is still cool and kind of original, but overall for me just wasn't my thing. I would probably give this movie like a 5.5. A lot of people who may resonate with it better are going to find it much better. The acting, I think I'm being pretty fair on, so that may be a little bit of a spotty area. But again, these are kids, guys. There's something that I wanted to root for at least. I didn't hate the kids or anything. I enjoyed the kids. I thought they were cool. And there are different versions of themselves, different characteristics in this film. And, there's some interesting, kind of scary, suspenseful moments because they are kids. So take it for what you will. It's not going to be for everybody. This isn't a gore fest. This is really just a kind of very unique film that doesn't do anything overly original and doesn't do it extremely gory, but in the end still has a message. And I still think is worth watching at least once. But it may not be your favorite film this year. But yeah, what do you guys think? Have you seen the trailer for this? Do you have a subscription? Are you going to watch it, or is it not for you? I understand, it does seem to lean a little bit more on the kid side, But I've seen other movies with kids in it that we can enjoy too. Like, you know, I grew up on them. So maybe this is nostalgia for me, and maybe there'll be nostalgia for these kids who watch this movie. I don't know. But I'd love to hear what you think in the comment section down below. Please hit the like and subscribe button, and of course the bell icon if you want to know when I got a new video up. Thank you so much for coming by, and as always, long live the void.